Okay,
hi there.
Yeah, everyone's in. So, hi, my name is Genevieve Doherty. I'm the international lead here at IADT, and you're all very welcome to our International Student Spotlight session. This is the second one we've actually done today. And I'm joined by Robin Maguire, who is our admissions officer, and we have a number of staff members here as well to support you in any questions that you may have. So we have Sean Enriquez from admissions, we have Michelle Murphy from Film EU, and we have Sonia Hogan from the international office. And we're also joined by one of our current students, Stefania, who's from Greece, who will be able to give her perspective of coming to IADT as a European student. So we're going to start I'm just going to wait another couple of minutes. We have 30 people in the room so far, so we'll just wait. There might be another couple of people who join, and we'll just, in a couple of minutes now, we'll start properly.
Hi guys, first of all, like Genevieve said, you're very welcome to the Spotlight session today on applying to IADT as an international student. I'm Robin Maguire, I'm one of the admissions officers here in IADT. And before I go into my slides, I'm going to give you some information about how and where you apply, when you apply. But first of all, just to get an idea of who you guys are, I'd love if you could complete this poll saying if you are applying for, or if you have applied for, either an undergraduate or a postgraduate program. So a master's degree or a undergraduate degree. And then I'll be able to maybe focus a little bit more time on particular sections in the slides, but it'll just give me a good idea of the breakdown of who you guys are. So if you could please complete the poll that should be appearing on your screen. I'd really appreciate that, guys. Thanks. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen and I am going to talk through our admissions process and maybe things and dates that you need to just be, I guess, aware of. Just give me 2 seconds. Okay, guys, can everybody see that okay? Okay, perfect. So I'm going to talk through the admissions process to IADT, how and where you apply, how you can determine your fee status as EU or non-EU, some upcoming deadlines that you need to be aware of, a little bit about the CAO for undergraduate entry, and then the last slide is about the dates and times of when you might get an offer from us, okay? So how and where should I apply? So there are 2 types of programs here in IADT. We have undergraduate degree programs and postgraduate programs. I can see that most of you who filled out the poll are applying for or have applied for postgraduate programs, okay? But I'll explain the undergraduate first. So with our undergraduate degree programs, where you apply is dependent on your fee status, okay? So if you have EU fee status, you apply via the Central Applications Office. So anyone from Ireland, the UK, the EU, EEA, Switzerland, Ukraine, they all apply via the CAO for our undergraduate programs. If you have non-EU fee status, so if you're from outside of the EU, you're an international student, you apply directly with us on the IADT International Admissions application form, okay? For postgraduate programs, most of our programs are applied for directly on our IADT website, postgraduate. Doesn't matter if you're EU or non-EU, everyone applies on the same form. The only other program that has a different application form is the Film EU Erasmus Mundus Resound MA, okay? The application form for that is directly on the Resound website. So that's just something that's important to note. It's also quite important to mention that the Resound application system and the entry requirements are slightly different to the rest of our postgraduate programs. So when you're on the Resound website, you might notice that the entry requirements are slightly different. And if you're not sure about what that means, please get in touch with us and we can explain in more detail, okay? So if you don't know what your fee status is, there's a quite easy way that you can figure that out. This is all on the IADT website. This QR code will bring you to the IADT page, but the 3 questions that you need to check is, were you born inside the EU or EEA? Have you or your parents lived outside the EU, EEA for 3 of the last 5 years? And are you a non-EU, non-EEA national? So is your citizenship, as stated on your passport, non-EU or EEA? So if you've answered yes to any of those questions, it's very likely you would be considered as an international non-EU fee paying student, okay? So that's just very important that you determine your fee status, because it will tell you where to apply, okay? And if you want more information, you can scan the QR code. And if you want to email us or give us a call, our contact details are here as well, okay? So if you're unsure, please do ask in the chat, or send us an email and we'd be happy to explain it. So more importantly, we've got a couple of important deadlines coming up for some of our programs, okay? For our undergraduate programs, February 1st, so just about 2 weeks' time, is the deadline for all applications to programs that require a portfolio in IADT. So that's EU students on the CAO and international students on our international application form. You have to have an application in by February 1st with any course that requires a portfolio. Okay, so that's a big deadline. The second deadline for undergraduate students, and it's the same for everyone as well, is the 10th of March is the deadline for submitting your portfolio. The portfolio is submitted on a separate submission platform on the IADT website, and you can find that very easily. You just search portfolio on our website, okay? So 1st of February, 10th of March, they're the most important undergraduate deadlines. And then the resound application deadline has been extended to the 27th of January. So a couple of days, about 5 days time. So we still have time to accept resound applications. Applications are made directly on the resound website and they close on the 27th of January, okay? Now I have slides here about the CAO process. I won't go into huge detail because I can see that a majority of you are applying for postgraduate programs, but I do think it's relevant. So Stefania is a student of ours. She's second year 3D animation. She would have applied via the CAO to get her offer for the program, okay? So when you're applying to the CAO, you have to indicate what qualification you're presenting, okay? So if, for example, like Stefania, you're from Greece and you're presenting your Greek high school qualification, you tick category 4 other school leaving exams. So you're telling the system that you're presenting another European qualification, okay? So that's what you would indicate on your application. You don't need to submit your documents. You don't need to put anything in there other than you have a CAO application on February 1st and that you've submitted your preferences, so your course choices. So on the CAO, you can submit up to 10 course choices. They have to be there by the 1st of February if they require a portfolio. So using Stefania as an example, she would have applied on the CAO. She would have put her course choices by February 1st, including 3D animation, and she would have submitted her portfolio directly to us in and around mid-March time. So I think last year it was about the 12th of March. This year it's the 10th of March. So she would have followed the same procedure that you will have to follow. It doesn't change. It's always the 1st of February. And that's what she would have to do in order to be considered for an offer. So if you want more information about the CAO process, the QR code on this page will bring you to a guide of how to apply and how the system works. So I'll leave this on the screen for a second. The QR code on this page brings you to a link specifically for EU students applying to the CAO. And there's a document that is really, really, really helpful. And it breaks down for each country in Europe and also some other qualifications. So if you're doing the international baccalaureate, for example, but you're based in the EU, each country and each qualification has a separate section in this document, and it explains exactly what the entry requirements are for your qualification. So for example, sorry, Stefania, I'm using you as an example a lot. She would go into the document, she would look into Greece, the pages relating specifically to Greece, and it would tell her in the language of her qualification what she needs to do to meet the entry requirements. So I would advise that you familiarize yourself with that if you haven't. The guides are really, really really helpful. The CAO was absolutely brilliant. So I really would consider taking a little bit of time. And if you have more questions, like I say, look, just please send us an email or put something in the chat, because I'd be happy to explain. So I guess finally, if you do have any other questions, or if you're not really sure about how your qualification is assessed, this QR code will link you to the international admissions page. It explains how your qualifications are assessed. It also explains the minimum English language entry requirements for different programs. So I'd advise that you take a look at that, because that's something that we get quite a lot of questions about. So like I say, I'm here the whole time in the background. I'll be answering questions. I'll turn my mic on and my camera on if there's a particular question that's complicated. But please feel free to ask any questions in the chat, and I'll be here in the background while Genevieve introduces the visa, immigration, and kind of living in Ireland as an international student side of things. So if you have any admissions questions, I'll be here. Okay, thanks guys.
Thanks, Robin. I'm going to pull up my presentation now. So thanks very much, Robin. I am going to talk to you now about just give you a very high-level overview of understanding the different stages of Irish immigration. I'm going to go through a little bit about accommodation and trying to budget while you're here in Ireland, and let you know about the Government of Ireland International Scholarship in 2026, which is opening next week. And Stefania will also help here towards the end of this presentation, just in and around her experience as an international student. So just before I start talking about visa regulations and things like that, there's a bit of a disclaimer here. I am not an immigration professional. I'm not an immigration expert. However, I have significant expertise, having dealt with non-EU students over many, many years, and I understand the requirements to an extent, and can advise you in a very high level way about them. But I will always guide you back to the Irish immigration website, not just because it's the official source of information, but because they also update it on a regular basis, and I may not necessarily know when they have done, because they don't let us know. So it's really important to understand the presentation here. Always go back to the Irish immigration website for your official information. So who needs a visa? This is one of the biggest questions that we get asked throughout the year. And basically any non-European student who is from a visa requiring country needs a D visa, or also known as a pre-entry visa, to enter Ireland. So examples of visa requiring countries are India, China, Colombia, Nigeria, South Africa. There's a very, very long list of them. I've just given a handful there. There are students also from non-visa requiring non-European countries. So these would be countries such as the US, Canada, South Korea, Mexico, Malaysia, Australia. Again, a very, very long list of countries. If you're not sure which category you fall into, I have a link to the Irish immigration website, to the exact page where you can check this information. The big difference between the visa requiring and the non-visa requiring is that the visa requiring do need to apply for a visa months in advance, whereas if you're from a non-visa requiring non-EU country, you can literally just fly into Ireland and stay for up to 90 days without needing a visa. Obviously, if you're going to come to do a full degree with us or a master's, you're going to need to stay longer than 90 days. So you will need to register for an IRP Stamp 2. So basically, all students from non-European countries will need to register for one of these IRP Stamp 2 when you arrive in Ireland. So when do you apply for an entry visa? So again, if you're from a visa requiring country and you need to apply for that entry visa, you should really be looking at the immigration requirements today. And if you haven't looked at them already, please do so at the end of this call. Your offer letter and receipt of fees will be the last step of the visa application preparation, not the first. And I can't stress that enough. Okay. You need to be ready to submit your visa, ideally in May, but no later than early June. Expect delays in getting paperwork together. Financial paperwork is pretty arduous, but there's other paperwork that can take weeks, such as police checks and things like that. So do please start the process early. And remember, if you don't get your visa in time to start the course, you won't be able to do the course. So it's really, really important that you start this process. So please do plan ahead and be prepared. Every country is different. So as well. So I'm not going to go into the processes per country, but depending on where you live, you could be applying through a local embassy, you could be applying through the Dublin visa office, you could be applying through the VFS system. There's lots of different ways and there's lots of different requirements depending on where you're from. So do look at the Irish Immigration website for that information. There are some financial considerations as well. So there is for the pre-entry visa, there's a small application fee of about €60 for a single entry. You will have had to pay your tuition fees in full for your first year of study. So for an undergraduate program with us at the moment, that would be €13,500. For our master's programs, most of ours will go over one academic year, whether it's for 3 semesters or 4 semesters. So our master's programs are 16,000. We expect you to have paid 8,000 for the first academic year. So you will need to have paid that. Your living expenses for visa purposes, there is a minimum requirement that you have €10,000 immediately accessible in your bank account. Now I have another figure underneath that, which is 15,000, because that's a more realistic figure. 10,000 is the legal requirement for visas. 15,000 is a more realistic figure in terms of being able to live here comfortably as a student. But you also need to have ready access to the remaining tuition fees and living expenses for each year of study. So if that's an undergraduate degree, it could be 3 or 4 years. And again, a master's, it will be over one academic year by at least 1 semester, if not 2. So you have to factor that in as well. Now, they're not looking for you to have that money in your account, but they want proof that you can access it. So that could be, they'd be checking your sponsor's employment contracts to see, is it a permanent contract? What's their salary? What are their savings? Will they be likely to be able to sponsor the student coming for the next 2, 3, 4 years, whatever it is? The assets have to be liquid, so that, you know, saying you have a house that you can sell is not good enough. They will expect that house to be sold. Likewise, bonds would need to be liquid as well. And remember, the IRP card itself, which I'm going to go through now, will also cost you €300 per annum every time you renew or change it, and for the first time you apply for it. So these are all just some financial considerations in and around the student visa. And when do you apply for the IRP? So you've had your offer, you've got your visa, you've arrived in Ireland, you've been told you have up to 90 days to apply for that IRP. Well, please don't wait 90 days. Please apply either the day or the day after you arrive, because there are significant delays in getting appointments. So you go online, you make your appointment, and you do all of that online. And your appointment can take any time. It can really vary between 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, even longer at the moment. There are major delays, which is why you should apply as early as possible. When you go for your appointment, it will take place in person. They won't give you your stamp 2 that day, but they will post it to your Irish address about 2 or 3 weeks later. Okay. Once you do have your IRP card, you can work, you can travel, you can apply for a Schengen visa if you're an Erasmus Mundus student and you're going to be doing your next semester somewhere else. It's really, really, really important that you apply for your IRP as soon as you arrive in Ireland to make sure that you have time to apply for everything else. And remember, the IRP stamp 2 is linked to your program. So if for any reason you decide to withdraw from your program, we're legally obliged to let the immigration authorities know that you're no longer studying with us. And we're going to fast forward again now to when you graduate from your program. So you have finished your degree or you finish your master's and you think, actually, I want to stay here and I want to work full-time in the area that I've studied in, or even in doing something else. And the great thing about the Irish immigration at the moment is that they allow this. So if you've done an undergraduate degree, you can stay on for 1 year. And if you've done a master's degree, you can stay on for up to 2 years. So to be eligible to apply for the graduate scheme visa, you must have graduated from a degree program here in Ireland. So that means that if you've done an online program through IADT, you cannot suddenly arrive over looking for a graduate scheme visa. You have to have studied here in Ireland. If you are an Erasmus Mundus student and you've done one of your semesters here, but not your final semester in Ireland, you cannot apply for it. But if you do your final semester in Ireland in your Erasmus Mundus master's program, then you would also be eligible to apply for the graduate scheme visa. So I have a link here with further information on that graduate scheme visa, just to see what what you need to do to get it. Like all times, every time you change your IRP, it will cost you €300. So just to be aware of that as well. And here are some useful immigration links. They're all on immigration.ie, irishimmigration.ie, but it is a big website, so I put up the individual links. So the first one, anybody who needs to apply for a pre-entry visa, that will take you to the page with all of the information requiring around how to apply for the pre-entry visa. The next link is for what to do at the border. So even if you're coming from the US or India, you will need to have certain paperwork in your hand luggage, your offer letter, your receipt, things like that, just to prove that what you're coming for, and that you're going to come and study with us. So it's important that you have that with you at the border. So again, there's a link on the immigration website describing what you need. The next one is how to register for the first time. So all of those documents that you need when you go up to get your IRP card, that's described under that section of their website. And the next section is everything you need to know about how to get how to apply for the third level graduate scheme. And the final link I have there is just for the International Student Hub. So it's the IADT.ie/international. We have all of this information on that section of the IADT website and lots more information. So do always check that page out. So finding accommodation in Dublin, that's the other big question that we get asked a lot from international students, whether you're from Spain, France, or India or China. It's on everybody's mind when you're having to travel to Ireland. So I'm going to go through some short-term and long-term options, why we advocate for one and the other at different times, and also just how you get the most out of our accommodation platform, the IADT Student Pad. So short-term accommodation options are really, really useful, particularly if you are visa requiring and there is that worry that you're not going to get your visa and you don't want to pay for long-term accommodation, or you don't want to pay for accommodation that you're not going to get your money back on. You don't need long-term accommodation for your visa application. So please do book something that you can get fully refunded on, but just make sure you do have accommodation booked for your first few days coming into Ireland. Do aim to stay in Dublin City or out here in Dún Laoghaire if you can. And if you're not in Dún Laoghaire, just make sure you have good transport links. I've listed the best ones there. So the DART is a lovely train that runs along the coast. It's actually very picturesque and it runs every 10-15 minutes into Dún Laoghaire town. The E2 is the closest bus to the college, and there are other local buses as well. So I've listed them as well. Do download the Transport for Ireland app. It's very useful for timetables and just planning your journey around. And of course, I'm sure you're all familiar with Google Maps, but it's, no harm to remember these things. The long-term accommodation options that Ireland has for students would be things like private rentals or room shares. There's purpose-built student accommodation, and then there's owner-occupied homestays, or we call them digs here in Ireland. So the private rentals, a lot of students will really, really want to go for this option because it gives them the most independence. And, I suppose there's a lovely idea of staying in a house with lots of other students. Unfortunately, there's huge demand for private rentals, not just with students, but with just the general population here in Ireland. And there's very low supply and it's getting lower. It's expensive. I've given an average of €2,500 per month. That's not the lowest. That's an average. It's probably much higher than that, to be absolutely honest with you. Leases are usually 12 months and deposit is usually at least 1 month's rent, and bills are extra. So what bills would you be thinking about? Probably things like heating. There could be electricity, it could be gas, you could have a television license, you could have bins, all this sorts of stuff that you don't necessarily think about. So Wi-Fi is obviously a big one as well for students. So it is quite an expensive option. And unfortunately, scams are also very, very common for people advertising private rentals, and particularly on social media. So we always advise students to try and avoid social media when looking for accommodation. So if you are going down that route, just be really, really aware of scams, and please don't pay a deposit before viewing a property if you can help it. If it sounds too good to be true, then it is too good to be true. often landlords who are scamming you will be putting you under pressure to pay a deposit. So please, if you feel like you're under pressure, either do some further research to be really, really sure that it's not a scam before you hand over any money. There's a residential tenancies board. Our landlords, if they're legitimate, will be listed on that here in Ireland. So you can actually check for their names. When you have a lease, that's your contract. Do read it, understand what the rules are, what you're signing up to. Don't get a shock at the end of the period if you have to give more notice than you thought you would, or that you don't get your deposit back. So just, do your research. The main platforms that we would use for accommodation in Ireland are daft.ie, rent.ie and myhome.ie. I have a QR code here for the student share section of the daft.ie website, particularly for IADT students. So that is quite handy there. Purpose-built student accommodation is fantastic, but unfortunately, IADT currently does not have any contracts with any of the providers. So most of the providers are based in Dublin city centre or a bit further out. We think that there is one being built very close to the college and due to be finished in 2027. So hopefully by then there may be a closer option for those looking for purpose-built student accommodation. But at the moment, we do not have a contract with anybody. Doesn't mean you cannot stay there though. And just a purpose-built student accommodation are only for students. They have loads of shared social spaces. They're very modern. They can have fun nights, events, they include bills, laundry, they've good security. They are expensive, but they do tend to be cheaper, certainly than the private rentals, but they are very high demand, but so you would need to really, really book early in advance. So if you do choose to go with one of them and you want to book before you have your visa or you're sure that you have your offer, please don't do it unless you're sure you can get a refund on it. So do your research. Just to highlight as well that our BA Honours Creative Music Production students do spend most of the time in the city centre. So, a purpose-built student accommodation in the city centre or digs or private rental in the city centre might be more useful than being out near Dún Laoghaire. And likewise, the BA Honours Art is also spends a semester out in Emma, again in the city. So just think about where your classes are as well before you're booking your accommodation. My favourite option for new students coming in for a semester for first year are the owner-occupied digs and homestays. They are more budget friendly. They're still pretty expensive, to be honest. You're looking at 800 plus a month, but they can be much more flexible. It's a room in somebody's house, so the leases can be really flexible from a month or 2 months to something much longer. The bills are usually included, and sometimes you even get your meals if you have a really good relationship with the family. It's a great homely experience. It's a great cultural experience living with the family, and it's fantastic if English language is not your first language. You will really improve in no time if you are immersed living in an English language or an Irish family household. There are downsides. Unfortunately, you have to expect house rules. You are sharing spaces with the family and probably, kids as well, or maybe animals as well. So just remember that if you're not a big fan of pets, for example, you might have limitations around the space that you use, whether or not you're allowed to bring friends in. There might be noise restrictions, no chatting late night, watching TV late at night. You will have less privacy, less personal space, probably less independence. And many only offer the 5-day accommodation. So this is really for Irish students who aren't based in Dublin, who like to go home at the weekend, and it's a cheaper option for them. So that's what they like to do it, but it's not really suitable for an international student who doesn't have an alternative place to go at the weekend. This is a snapshot of our IADT student pad dashboard. So you can see on it, it has an accommodation search, hot lists, property alerts. So it's a really, really good resource for our students. So to get onto the IADT student pad, you have to have accepted your offer. And for international students, that would also include having paid your fees. So most European students will not be getting their offer until perhaps August. So timing is important with this. So as soon as you do have your offer and have accepted it, you should get in touch with our accommodation officer, and I will provide details later on. As I said, it's a free resource for students. It's great for local accommodation searches around Dún Laoghaire. The rents are capped as much as we can. We do ask landlords to keep them at 800. They don't always do it, but we do our best to ask them to do it. As I said, there's hot lists, so you can save places that you're interested in. And there's an inquiry section. You can contact landlords directly through it. You can use the map function to figure out how close it is to IADT. And there's a great housing advice section on it as well. One of the most important things is that the landlords on this platform are verified, which means they're genuine landlords, so they're not scams. However, they are not vetted. So they're not police vetted or Garda vetted. So please be aware of that. And also, we don't, unfortunately, have the resource to inspect the accommodation. So it would be up to you to go and look at the accommodation first to see that it meets your needs. So we have a few accommodation resources here. There's a few websites which we recommend that you have a look at. The one at the top is not a link, and I'm just going to talk about this for a minute. To join the Go and IADT app, you have to be invited. So to be invited, you need to have been offered and have accepted your offer, and again, paid your fees for it for non-EU students. So it's a great amenity. It's a great way of meeting other new students before you actually leave leave your country to get to Ireland. So if you're worried about making friends, etc., you can start doing that usually in and around August, if not July. And many students last year used it to find accommodation, because students do put up, room shares and things like that on it. And it's a really, really good facility for that and a good resource. So please do, when you get the invite to this app, we highly recommend that you join it. How to live on a budget in Dublin. This is not an easy thing to do, to be absolutely honest. The accommodation is going to take, that'll be your main cost. That and tuition fees are going to be your biggest costs when you're here. As I said, the visa authorities have a minimum requirement of €10,000 per year, but we would expect you really to be comfortable to have a minimum of 15,000. I have a couple of links up here. So ICOS's link and Numbeo. They're just really good. If you have a look at both of them, they're quite different. But if you go in, you can have a breakdown of what everything is likely to cost when you're here. And Numbeo in particular, I find quite useful. You can put in any city in the world and just see, okay, how much is a cup of coffee here, or how much are toiletries, or how much is it to eat out. So it's a really, really good resource. So do have a look at it just to get a good idea of how much things cost here in Dublin. I recommend you start saving before you come. If you have time over the summer months and you're trying to decide what to do over the summer, I'd recommend that you try and get some part-time work, just so that you're more comfortable when you're here. The more you can do before you arrive, the better. And the more you have with you when you come over or in your bank account, the better for you. Remember, non-European students, the sooner you get your IRP card, the sooner you can work when you're here, and you will be entitled to work part-time during term time, and you will be allowed to work up to 40 hours a week during vacation. So it's important that you do, as I said, the day you arrive or the next day, make that appointment for your IRP card. And again, research your accommodation options before you arrive so that you're minimizing the amount of time that you spend in the short-term accommodation. So if you can, make your appointments and things like that before you come so that you hit the ground running when you're here. I've put up a few things about making the most of student life while you're here on a budget. I have some information, really just like our student union is brilliant for organising events throughout the year. And there's 30 to 40 societies for students to join with loads of subsidised events. And there's something for everyone, whether it's a free sea swim or a pizza night or a movie night, there's always something for everyone. There's loads of discount cards that you can get as a full-time student. So do your research. Again, I have listed just 3 as examples there, but do your research and talk to other students when you're here to find out. And Stefania, maybe when I finish the slide, you might come in here and give your experience. Transport, buy a leap card that will significantly reduce your costs on the buses and the trains. And again, as part of your welcome orientation, we'll advise you how to do that. And even better, cycle. You can get a second-hand bike, or there are bikes to rent all over the place here for quite a cheap amount of money. And there's loads of new cycle lanes in Dunleary and right outside the college. Be careful when you're buying your groceries and your toiletries and your clothes. Some supermarkets are much more expensive than others for exactly the same thing. So do opt for cheaper supermarkets where you can. I've listed Aldi and Lidl here. Tesco is also good, and it's great actually for getting cheaper clothes, as is Pennies. So do check the local discount stores as well. And when you can, try and prepare your meals at home. We have a lovely restaurant. It only opened earlier this year in our beautiful new digital media building. And it is fabulous, and we all eat there, and it's lovely to see all the students eating there. But it will mount up if you're eating there three meals a day, 5 days a week. So do try and prepare some of your meals at home as well. So I'm going to, just before I go into the last slide there, I don't know, Stefania, if you're on the call, I saw earlier you had a little bit of an issue there in relation to you could hear the call or not. I don't know if you're back.
Oh, I'm back. Like I just had a small issue with my phone, but I'm here. Should I jump in and like talk about my experience from IDT?
Yes, please do. Please do.
All right. So hi, nice to meet you all. So I'm in second year of 3D animation, and I came to Ireland 1.5 years ago. I really recommend this to everybody to have this experience to have in your beginning in a new country. Not only it will give you a chance to get a different kind of education, the environment from IDT really helped me to learn more, be more passionate about what I do. And of course, just like every international student, who wants to take such a worthy risk to leave their country and meet new people. I'd say everybody is kind of in the same page. When you come here on induction day, everybody is experiencing this nervous situation of they don't know how to talk to new people yet. They're a little bit stressed, but because everybody goes through has the same background, it's easier for you to make friends. Be confident, talk to people. They will be more than happy to meet you. And if you have any questions or any concerns, we have the student union, which by the way organizes lots of parties. On my first year, I got to meet more people because of the parties they've been organizing. In particular, they're making themes as well, such as pirate theme parties in different like locations in Dunleary or in the city center. In terms of like the campus and how it is, I would say that it's such a great like place, not only to meet new people. Again, it inspires you and encourages you to be more active in a student life, and it really helped me as an individual to be more productive and responsible on my assignments, because the people around me, they treat me in a way that helped me to be more responsible, if that makes any sense. But yeah, I really recommend people to students of any age to try this. It's a wonderful experience, and the people you meet along the way is an amazing experience. So yeah, I had a really good start, and I keep having really good moments in school with professors and with students. It's a really good life here.
That's really great to hear, Stefania. And I suppose if you had one piece of advice, is that what it is, to join the student union? Is to make the most of it? Would that be your top, piece of advice for the
Uh,
students, or would you have anything else that you would suggest that they should take on board when they're thinking about coming over?
My main advice is to take risks and be curious. Always follow your curiosity, and that can lead you to anywhere, like meeting new people and trying new modules. Maybe be curious. It will get you somewhere really good, and that's why I'm here and I'm having such a good time.
That's great. That's great to hear. It would be great if you could stay on the call. I'm going to go to my next and my final slide just to talk about the Government of Ireland scholarship, and
Okay.
which is opening for applications next week. And then afterwards, we will have another about 20 minutes of people asking questions. So it'd be great if any of you could stay on for that as well, just in case there's any questions directed at you.
Okay.
Great. Okay. Thank you. So, as I mentioned, the Government of Ireland is opening applications next week for its postgraduate scholarship, its international postgraduate scholarship. Now, unfortunately, this is not eligible for European students. It's only available for students who have to pay fees at the non-European rate. Okay, so non-European students. And basically, anybody who gets this scholarship gets their full tuition fees waived, and they are so IADT will waive the full tuition fees for your program. And the Government of Ireland, the Higher Education Authority, will give you a stipend of 10,000 per year, which is paid in 2 instalments. The first 5,000 in the first semester and the second 5,000 in the second semester. So we have 4 programs that are included in it. It's the MA in Animation, MA Design for Change, the MA in Screenwriting for Film and Television, and the MA or MSc in User Experience Design. So if you are applying for one of those programs, or you already have, and you either have an unconditional or a conditional offer, and you're interested in applying for the Government of Ireland program, applications will open up January 29th. And they will close at 5 p.m. on March 12th. And the results will be announced in early June 2026. So the application forms and the guidelines and eligibility requirements, etc., are all available on the Higher Education Authority's website. I have the link there. It's also on the International Student Hub as well for anybody who wants to take a look at that page. And that's the iadt.ie/international. So it is a great opportunity. We have a Government of Ireland scholar this year. So there are eligibility guidelines and requirements. So they are quite detailed. So you should check with the HEA website as well, just to make sure that you meet them. But those are the 4 programs that we're offering this year. Please be aware as well, should you get it, the 10,000 is for the year 1 of study only. So these programs are generally for the second year, for 2 years, I should say, or at least 3 semesters. So you will need to fund yourself for the remaining semester or semesters of the program. And that's really it from me. I'm just going to put up this slide just to remind you again of who we all are. So, and just the email addresses for each of the areas of the college. So you may, if you have a Film EU specific question, Michelle and Enya are great at responding at them. If we've Fees and Grants, we've nobody from Fees and Grants on the call this evening, but that's the website, the email address there. And again, we have a new accommodation officer, Ciara Dorgan, that's her email address there. And Robin is on the call with Sean, and myself and Sonia are on the call as well. So questions. I think Sonia, you said that you were going to moderate. So I'm going to turn off my mic now and stop sharing, and we'll take questions.
I think Sean is going to moderate, Genevieve.
Thanks, everyone. So we've got quite a lot of questions in the chat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read them out, and then I'll point to the person who might be most relevant to answer them. The first question we have is, if we apply to the Resound Masters program, should we also apply to each individual partner university in the program? I suppose Michelle or Robin might be able to answer this.
Yeah, I can answer that. Oh, sorry, Michelle, there's a bit of a delay. Yeah, you don't, absolutely not. It is a joint master's degree program, meaning that when you are applying, you apply to the one program and you are granted entry to the entire program. Each semester is in a different location, but you only need to make your application once via the platform, and it's assessed by IADT as we're the lead institution. But no, one and only application for entry.
Thanks, Robin. The next question I can answer very quickly. Someone's asking if the meeting is going to be on YouTube. We are recording this session, but if you do want to access the recording, you'll have to email info@iadt.ie. The next question is, do Nigerians need English proficiency tests to apply? Robin?
Yep, I'm happy to answer that. So it depends on, first of all, depending on what program you're applying for, we have different English language entry requirements. When you're applying to a program in Ireland, so not the ReSound program, there is an English language policy statement which explicitly states the test of English you need to provide. It isn't split up by your nationality or your citizenship, but rather your qualification. So if you've achieved a qualification of a full undergraduate degree or at least one academic year through English, and you can provide proof of that, you do not need to provide an English proficiency test as part of your application to us. So I'd advise that you have a look at the international admissions page on the IADT website, and there's an English language policy statement, okay? For ReSound, you'll find the English language entry requirements on the ReSound page, and it's the same in that you can provide, if you can provide proof that you've done a full qualification through the medium of English, that can be accepted as an alternative. The scores are ever so slightly different with ReSound because we're aligning with our Film EU partners, so I would advise that you take a look on the ReSound website. One other thing that is very important to mention, and Genevieve mentioned it before, so there are two types of non-EU applicants to Ireland. There are visa required and non-visa required. If you require a visa for entry to Ireland, one of the document requirements is proof of English, okay? So we've sent some links into the chat about entry requirements for visas. So Nigerian applicants, for example, need a visa to come into Ireland. Part of that visa requirement is that you provide a test of English, not to us, but as part of your visa application. So it's very important that you understand the application requirements on your visa as well as the entry requirements for our programs. So hopefully that answers your question.
Thanks, Robin. The next question is, I'm a Mexican student, and last year I completed a research stay of 3 months through Erasmus Plus programs between my university in Mexico and another university in the Netherlands. Am I still eligible to apply for the Erasmus scholarship?
I can answer that question for you, Sean. So you would have gone through the Erasmus Plus program, and it's that's slightly different. You're talking about applying perhaps for the Erasmus Mundus program and the funding there. That would be different. So you can and you are eligible to apply for the Erasmus Mundus scholarship for ReSound. I presume that's what you're asking. I don't know if you can do a thumbs up to let me know. So within the Erasmus, the general undergraduate, the general Erasmus program, double funding is not permitted at the same time, but you are eligible to apply for a different kind of Erasmus funding application, which would be Erasmus Mundus.
Thanks, Sonia. That's great.
No problem. Thanks.
The next question is, will an Erasmus scholarship cover all the tuition fee requirements?
I think this may be for the ReSound. I'm wondering.
It does seem like it, yes.
Yeah, Michelle, can you answer that, please?
Hi, yes, certainly. Hi, guys. Yeah, in relation to, first of all, just to say that not all successful applicants to the ReSound program will also receive a scholarship. We typically will have a mix of scholarship recipients and self-paced students in any one ReSound year. For those who do receive a scholarship, it covers all of the fees and in addition a monthly stipend of €1,400. There is an additional question there in the chat, I think. I know we were asked as well if that will typically cover all of your costs in Dublin. That has not been the experience of this year's group, and I think Genevieve has already outlined that Dublin is an expensive place to live. In the other two locations for ReSound, which is in Portugal and in Lithuania, the cost of living is slightly less. But if you are a ReSound applicant, it's really important that you research the cost of living before before committing to the programme.
That's great. Thanks, Michelle. We have another question from Crystal asking if there is a way to book a tour of facilities for film degrees.
Yes, I can answer that question. Yep, that's absolutely no problem, Crystal. What you can do is just email international@iadt.ie, and between myself and Genevieve and Orla, we will organise a tour for you. The college is open all year round, and there just won't be any teaching happening in July. Just regular teaching. There might be some summer courses going on, but happy to show you around.
We have another question here asking if we have an IRP in Ireland, would it make the Schengen visa easier to apply to?
I'll answer that. So you have to have an IRP. If you're here in Ireland, you actually have to have the IRP to apply for the Schengen. So you have to have residency here, and the IRP is your residency.
Perfect. Thanks very much. We have a question from John asking how many hours are students allowed to work per week?
So they are on a visa, student visa. During term time, students are allowed to work up to 20 hours per week, and outside of term time, they're allowed to work up to 40 hours per week.
Perfect.
I'm sorry, if work placement, I'm not sure what program he's applying for, but the undergraduate programs, many of them have work placements. They're entitled to do the work placements as well during term time and get paid for them.
Thanks, Genevieve.
If I may just sorry, Sean, but if I may just interject on that, and Genevieve, am I correct in saying it's contingent on having your IRP?
It's the student, yeah, exactly. You have to have the student visa to be able to do that. So if you haven't, so when you arrive, as I said, you have to apply for the IRP to be allowed to work, and you have to have it. So that there could be a delay in a few months in getting that. So that's why we say to start that process as soon as you've arrived in the country.
Yeah, and I would just like to flag to recent applicants for any of you who, and I'm sure there will be many of you, be successful in getting a place on the programme. I do just want to flag to you that there is currently a delay in Ireland in getting the IRP. So if you are planning on being able to work part-time during that first semester, it's really important that you would have sufficient savings to tide you over in the event that your IRP is delayed coming through. So just to flag that to you and give you the benefit of the experience of this year's programme.
That's great. Thanks, everyone. We have another question that's been partially answered, so I'm going to paraphrase it a little bit. Luis is asking how much on average is needed to cover overall monthly expenses. I will just jump in and say that UCD, University College Dublin, do provide an estimated monthly living costs webpage with a lot of information on this that's updated regularly. This includes things like accommodation, utilities, food, and so on. So they can give you kind of an average indication of what the cost of living is for a student in Dublin at this time.
And I'll just second that in saying I put a link up there, and the ICOS link, which is, if you go into that under the budget side of things on the presentation towards the end, it does actually gives UCD, it gives a couple of other colleges as well who have given a breakdown of monthly costs. Now, obviously, every college is a bit different. Some of them have their own accommodation, things like that. So it will impact on, what you're spending. But if you take accommodation out of it, which is the biggest outlay, the rest of the information is really useful and very relevant.
That's great. Thanks. Just one second. So we have another question asking if there is a discount available for students on public transportation costs.
Yeah, so the Leap card is available to everybody, and when you arrive, you can apply for a Leap card, and we will help you do that. And these are discounted fares. So depending on how old you are, I'm not going to go into the detail now, but basically it depends on how old you are, whether you get a student Leap card or young adult Leap card or whatever. But they do minimise they reduce significantly the cost of public transport, and they're very handy, and you can just use them between bus and train, and there's usually weekly caps and things like that on them.
We have another question here, probably for Michelle on resend applicants, asking when could the final decisions be expected? And in that case, when approximately would acceptance letters be issued?
Yeah, happy to take that. So the next step in the process will be shortlisting of applicants for interview. So those interviews will likely take place in March, and then subsequently offer letters will go out probably early April. I haven't the exact dates just yet.
Yeah, just confirming what Michelle said as well. Obviously, the offers will be coming from the IDT admissions office. And in terms of letters, what tends to happen is we'll make our offer, will indicate whether or not you're a scholarship awardee. And if you are awarded a scholarship, we will provide a letter that you can present as part of your visa application. If you are not a scholarship awardee and you're self-pay, we'll send you the offer, and then we can follow up after you've met the payment requirements as stated in your offer. We can submit we can give you an acceptance letter as part of your visa application. So it very much depends on whether or not you're a scholarship awardee, but everything will be done by email from the admissions office in IADT.
And in regards to Resound, we have Tomas asking if candidates are successful in being accepted into the Resound program, does the Erasmus Mundus scholarship application be presented to them after their acceptance?
Hi, Tomas. I think Robin touched on that there. So some of the successful, basically scholarships are awarded on merit arising out of the entirety of the selection process. And if you are being awarded an offer, it will clearly state whether or not that's a scholarship offer or a self-pay offer. Does that answer your question? Maybe give us a thumbs up.
I think that does, but yeah, that's perfect. Thanks, Michelle. That's great. We've another question asking about PSAT and ACT requirements in addition to GPA requirements for film media studies.
Yep, I can answer that. So before I do, Crystal, I just wanted to check. It sounds like from your question that you are in US high school, or you're presenting US high school diploma qualifications. I would advise the best thing to do is to contact us directly. The minimum requirement typically for American candidates is that they have their high school diploma and that they've provided evidence of their overall GPA. But for more competitive courses, or to increase your score, your academic score, we accept further qualifications. So that's ACT, SAT, IB subjects, any AP subjects, anything like that will just enhance your chances for an offer because it will increase your academic score. So if I've understood your question correctly, you can provide those further qualifications and it will give you a more competitive academic score. But the minimum for someone presenting a US high school diploma is that they have the US high school diploma and that they've provided evidence of their transcripts indicating their overall GPA. So if that's answered your question, great. If not, feel free to ask another one or just send us an email because I'm happy to explain in detail. Obviously, it very much depends on exactly which program you're applying for, but the film studies program, that would be what we would require from you because that does not require portfolio. But please feel free to send another comment in if I didn't answer your question correctly.
Thanks, Robin. Durant is asking, when should international students ideally start the visa application process?
I'll answer that. Today, Durant, is the honest answer to that. I mentioned earlier in the presentation that if you have to apply for a visa, the last piece of that jigsaw puzzle will be your acceptance and your receipt of fees from IADT, and everything else should be in place by then. So you should be gathering all of your information now and be ready to submit your visa application, ideally no later than May. And at a stretch, early June. They take at least, depends on the country you're from, but they can take up to between 12 and 16 weeks to get the visa. So please do give yourself plenty of time.
Great. Ahmed is asking for Erasmus programs. Are there specific degrees you should be holding? I believe this is in regards to minimum entry requirements, if Robin wants to jump in.
Yeah.
So as far as I can tell from all of the questions where they mention Erasmus, and I know Sonia's mentioned it, Erasmus and Erasmus Mundus are two separate things. Okay, so the Erasmus Mundus Resound Joint MA program has minimum academic entry requirements for your qualification. So that would be a undergraduate qualification that falls under the European framework of qualifications as a level 6, in the Irish framework of qualifications that is a level 7. So a bachelor's degree or bachelor's honours degree. They do specify that your qualification should be in a relevant field to Resound. Now we assess all applications as to if they meet the academic entry requirements of the bachelor degree or equivalent qualification. The program team, when they're shortlisting, will look at the qualification and if it is in a relevant field relating to sound. So you can apply with your bachelor's degree, even if you're not sure if it is relevant to sound. The program team will then look at shortlisting, and then they will shortlist based on the relevancy of your qualification to Resound, to media, to sound and production. So hopefully that answers your question. The Resound website has all of the information you need about the entry requirements, and if they're unclear, reach out to admissions@iadt.ie. That's our email, okay?
Crystal is also asking if Erasmus is for Americans or only EU students.
So Crystal, as an undergraduate, the Erasmus program is all students, all undergraduate students will get to make an expression of interest and to me during their second year in the 4-year programs, apart from the applied psychology program. So yeah, you can, American students, I had students today from all over the world who were asking me questions about Erasmus, and from Chile, from the United States. So it's open to everybody, okay? It's a long process, but hopefully you might get to experience another European country in your second semester of third year.
And Kanako would like to know if they need to prove that they have €10,000 to apply for a scholarship.
I can answer that. I think I can. The Resound scholarship, as far as I'm aware, has your ability to pay, to have the funding for your visa application has nothing to do with your chances of being granted the scholarship. So the scholarship has nothing to do with your visa application. The scholarship is granted based on your merit to the Resound program. So there may be two separate questions to that, but no, you can indicate in your original application to Resound if you want to be considered for the scholarship. You'll then be assessed based on merit for the scholarship. If you have to apply for a visa, then we will follow up in terms of the letter and how we word the letter stating that you will not be paying fees as you're granted a scholarship. So no is the answer, but there's a little bit more to it.
So, and I'm just going to interject there as well, because I think Kanako is talking about a different program, actually, potentially, not the Resound one. So it could be the Government of Ireland scholarship. So, so no, there's no requirement that you have to have €10,000 to apply for a scholarship. And if it is the Government of Ireland one, please do look at the link that that's been shared with all of the requirements in terms of making the application for the scholarship. From the college's perspective, you need to have either a conditional or an unconditional offer in the first instance to make that application from our side. But there's lots of other eligibility requirements, which you will see on the link that was shared.
Alexandru is a Romanian applicant who speaks English and has a GESE pass with distinction from Trinity College. I'll just clarify that this is Trinity College London. And they are asking if they could provide that certificate as proof of English language.
Could you clarify in the chat if you are, did they specify if they're applying for an undergraduate program? This particular question? Or are they applying for postgraduate? I will answer for undergraduate first of all. I would advise that you go onto the CAO website and you look specifically at the entry requirements for Romanian applicants. In that section, it will specify what you need to provide as proof of English. It is very unlikely that, especially in IDT, that we will accept a qualification from Trinity because we centrally assess European applications. So what is acceptable for IDT has to be acceptable for all of the colleges that you've applied for. So I would advise that you look, if you're applying for the undergraduate, that you look on the CAO website under applicants. I'm going to link a page on the chat now. There is a specific document called the EFTA Entry Requirements for EU Applicants. You can go to the page on Romania and it will explain what qualifications you need to present for entry and the English language qualifications you need to present. There's also about 3 pages of English tests that we do accept. So if it's on that 3 pages of English tests, yes, we accept. If it's not, then no. But I will link the page on the CAO website which explains this in detail, because it is quite complicated, and I'd be happy to discuss it with you if you want to take a look at the document and then send us an email. That might be the better way to go through it, because I don't want to confuse anybody.
And I think the next question has actually been mostly answered already. Ahmed is asking, would being granted a scholarship waive the 10k euros required for a visa?
So if you're granted a scholarship, you have to submit this as your cost of living. So this would be what you would put in instead of saying, well, I have 10,000 in my bank account. I've actually been given a scholarship for X amount. But obviously, depending on the amount it's for, again, I don't know if it's for one of our the Recent program or one of the 4 master's programs that I mentioned. But yeah, you would have to put in the scholarship information as part of your visa application if you're a scholarship awardee, and the scholarship itself would also have to be at least €10,000.
I'm actually going to jump in and answer the next question. So Kanako is asking, if they haven't achieved the English score required, are they not eligible to apply for the course? They're suggesting that they could still attach a cover letter describing their situation. Kanako, you might be eligible for a conditional offer, but you would not be able to be made a full offer until you were able to provide that sufficient proof of the English language.
Yeah, absolutely. And echoing Sean as well, you can apply, anyone can apply to any of our programs, but that does not mean that an offer can be made straight away. So like Sean said, you can apply right now with your documentation. If you want to put in place of the proof of English, a letter stating that you haven't met the entry requirements with the test you have, or even putting the one that you currently have that doesn't meet the requirements, and we'll already see when we're assessing it that it doesn't meet the requirements. You can put a cover letter saying that you will retake the test, and then obviously, like Sean said, either we can make you a conditional offer after you submit that to us, or if you want to email us the test after you get your new score, if it meets the requirements, then we'll add it to your file, and then you may well meet the entry requirements at that stage. So you can absolutely make an application, and this goes for all of our programs. As long as you've submitted something in each section that requires a document, if the document you're submitting is not the correct document, you need to highlight that to us, whether that's with a cover letter or by email stating, I'm still in high school, I haven't finished my SATs yet, or I'm in my last year of my degree program and I don't have my final year transcripts. Let us know. You can still submit an application, even if you don't have all the documents. Just make sure that there is a submission, a document in each section that is required to allow you to submit your application. And then if something is not correct, we'll either flag it with you when we make your initial assessment, or if you'd like, you can email us and tell us yourself, and then you can just email the documents to us when you do have them, and we'll add them to your file. So that is something that's really important. So don't feel like you have to wait until you have all your documents. Make your application, highlight to us that you haven't got all your documents, and highlight when you will provide them, or just email us, saying I will follow up with these, or we'll also do that. So do make the application. Obviously, there are deadlines too. So if you're making a resend application, for example, put the application in. If you don't have the test of English by the 27th of January, that is absolutely fine, but you will have to provide it to us in order for us to make you a full offer.
Alexandru has asked a question but added some context later. So the initial question is, when is the deadline for the portfolio for undergraduate programs? But the context they have added later is that they have applied for the second year through advanced entry.
Perfect. We actually have had a lot of questions about that today outside of these sessions. So for first year undergraduate entry, as I said on the slides, 10th of March is the deadline for your portfolio for first year entry. Okay, you have to have it submitted by the 10th of March. If you're also applying for what we call advanced entry, which is applying for year 2 or 3 of an undergraduate program, the deadline to apply on the CAO for advanced entry is the 1st of May, and it will be the same for our international students. The deadline to submit your portfolio is also the 1st of May for advanced entry only. It's in the same place that you'll submit your first year portfolio, but when you click that you're going to submit a portfolio, it will ask you the type of portfolio. So you tick advanced entry, then you choose the course. And something else that is very important, if you've applied to more than one undergraduate course in IADT for first year entry, let's say, for example, this person who said art, 3D animation, film, design for film, you have to make 4 portfolio submissions, 1 for each course. It can be exactly the same portfolio, but it has to be there under each program title you've applied for, because the judges assessing your portfolio for undergraduate will only ever see one program. So the art lecturers will only see the art portfolio. So if you submit one portfolio and you think that all of the courses you've applied for will see that, that is not the case. So make sure every course you've applied for, there is a submission in the portfolio platform for every single course. Okay, 1st of May, advanced entry, 10th of March, first year entry. And that's the same for everybody, EU or non-EU.
Thanks, Robin. And the final question that we have is, what should be inside, what should be the contents of a motivation letter submitted for an undergraduate program with a portfolio?
Yep, I can answer that. So I would advise that you look at some of the spotlight sessions specifically for the programs that you're interested in. And we also had a portfolio specific spotlight session that kind of advise a little bit more in detail about what that can entail. But essentially what the opportunity of submitting a portfolio is it's showing the program team who you are. They're not going to see your academic results. They're not going to see anything other than what you've submitted in your portfolio. So the best opportunity that you have to show us who you are is in your portfolio. Your personal statement can introduce yourself. It can introduce your experience, your interests, how long you've been interested in a particular program. You can also direct the team to particular pieces within your portfolio that you're especially proud of. You can also do that in your portfolio too. So if you have a video, it's 20 minutes long, but there's 5 minutes that you really love or that you hate, tell them, because they will not know unless you tell them. So it's an opportunity for you to introduce yourself, what you like, what you do, things that maybe are not necessarily easy to tell from, let's say, a CV or your portfolio submissions. So use it as an opportunity to introduce yourself and what you like, what you're interested in. By the way, it also can be a video. So on the portfolio platform, you can either do a video submission, personal statement, or a word-based one. So it's up to you how you do it. But I would advise, if nothing else, have a look at the spotlight sessions on the programs that you're interested in, and also the portfolio session. You can email info@iadt.ie to see if they've been recorded, but I would recommend that you do that, because that would really give you a more directed guidance, especially if you're applying to multiple programs. But do consider, if you're applying to more than one program with a portfolio, that maybe you change your personal statement based on the program you're applying for. Because if you're applying for film and your personal statement is, I love design for film, because that might not be the best idea. So just have a think about what you want to say and how you want to present yourself. But it's absolutely open to interpretation. It can have as little or as much as you want. Really, it's an opportunity for you to show who you are. So there's no wrong answer about what to include in that. And I hope that answers your question, but it's very open for interpretation. That's the beauty of the portfolio. It allows you to put in whatever you feel is a good representation of your work and your ideas and your experiences. So feel free to put whatever you feel is a good way to show us who you are.
We have just gotten 2 more quick questions, and we have a ReSound applicant asking, they've said, I've submitted my website and 3 other projects I have worked on. Is that enough for my application?
I can answer certainly from our perspective. Having a website link is great, and it kind of pushes the program team to look at more information. But when they're shortlisting, that is what the program team will look at. Michelle, maybe you can come in. It very much depends on the content within what you've submitted, but that sounds like certainly would be enough from previous submissions that we have received. But Michelle, you're probably far more knowledgeable about the particulars.
And thank you, Robin. Yes, I had given that question a thumbs up. So you'll have seen the guidelines are maximum of 3 items, and in terms of duration, the panel will look at a maximum of 15 minutes of material. So the recommendation is to choose pieces that you feel are going to best support your application. Variety is good. But you're saying in your question you've submitted 3 things and a link to your website. So that sounds to me like plenty of material for the evaluation panel to make an assessment on. So thanks very much.
And we have a similar question asking if creating a PDF with a link to my music and videos as a portfolio is sufficient. So the same answer applies if this is for Resound. If not, you can let us know in the chat and we will clarify.
I'll take that. So there's sort of a short and a long answer to this. The short answer is that providing there aren't any stipulations with regard to exactly how you present your portfolio. What I would recommend is that if someone clicks on that link, that it's very easy for the person reviewing your portfolio to navigate what they find. So they will be looking, we have a very high volume of applications. So what they're looking for is exactly what they've asked for. They've asked for 3 pieces and for the total duration to not be more than 15 minutes. So just to be careful that you're not providing a link to something where the evaluator is expected to spend longer than that trying to pull out the pieces, the best pieces to evaluate your application on. So that would be the advice that I'd give on that.
And I'll also just add, if you are adding links to your application, make sure it's not a link that requires someone to log in or have an account to an existing product or software in order to be able to access it. So things like Spotify links should really not be included. You should be linking directly to the files themselves.
Absolutely. Google Drive is a big one, or sorry, anywhere that is Google related, program teams will not assess. I will also answer for undergraduates. So if this person is asking about, can they create a PDF with links to their music and videos as a portfolio? Absolutely, yes. So how you submit your the pieces within the portfolio and the formatting of them is up to you. You can absolutely put one PDF with multiple pages, and each page is a different link or a picture of your a link to your YouTube or whatever it might be. Absolutely. But like Michelle and Sean both said, please, please, please make sure that the links are accessible. If they're videos, you can have them unlisted on YouTube or unlisted on Vimeo as long as they are accessible. So what I would advise that you do for undergrad or postgrad, put together your portfolio, ask a friend to check the links, because if the program team are trying to assess your links after the deadline and they can't assess them, you know, there may not be an opportunity for you to fix that. So please make sure you check the links are accessible. Don't use anything Google Drive or anything where you need to log in, like Sean said. You can have links to websites, but like Michelle said, and like I said as well, direct the team to where to go. If there are particular pieces on the website or within the PDF that you want to really have them focus on, tell them, and just make sure that your links work. You can have unlisted videos on YouTube and Vimeo, which means that only people who have the link can access it, so it's not publicly available. So they're the really important things as a part of the portfolio that you need to consider before you submit that portfolio, whether that's in your Resound application, on your MA in Animation application, or in the undergraduate program. So just make sure that you're checking that. Asking a friend to look at it would probably be the best way to do that.
That's great. I think you've actually answered a few more questions that have come in through that. One more thing to clarify for Denise is that direct links to SoundCloud, Spotify, or Apple Music are not valid because they may require a lecturer or someone assessing your application to log into an account, which requires them to create an account. So we need to make sure that all of the media that you submit as part of your portfolio is accessible without someone creating an account and logging into a platform.
Yeah.
We are running out of time, but we do have one more question above in the chat. Crystal is saying, as an American English speaker, do I need to submit anything as far as English requirements? I know we clarified this about the visa earlier, but
yeah,
Robin might be.
The short answer is no. Americans are non-visa required. Sorry, this bit of echoing. Americans are non-visa required, which means they don't need a visa to get into Ireland. Obviously, all of your education will have been delivered through English, and your high school qualification will also indicate that it's been delivered to English. So absolutely not, no, you do not need to. There's another question here that I'll answer while I'm here. Ahmed is saying Google Drive links won't be assessed. What I will say about that is that because you have to log in to Gmail or Google to assess Google Drive links, the program teams assessing portfolios do not use those types of links because it violates our ICT policy. So if you're providing links, make sure, like Sean said, that they do not need to log in. If it's on, let's say SoundCloud, Spotify, or Apple Music, if there's a way that they can listen without logging in, that's fine. The same with Google Drive. If you can put it somewhere else, with Google Drive, you can literally download the document and upload the document separate from Google Drive. As long as it is accessible by the program team without them having to log in with their personal credentials, it is fine. But if they have to log in with personal credentials, then they will not assess that. They will not look at it because it violates our ICT policies and our privacy policies. So just make sure that you're checking that. And if you realize that you've submitted something and the links are to a Google Drive where they need to log in, you can email us an updated link that does not require login to admissions@iadt.ie. So don't be worried if that is the case and you've already submitted. Flag that with us and we can amend your application, or if it's an undergraduate portfolio submission, we can reopen the submission. But this is why you need to do the checks now, okay, in advance of the deadline, because they're the important things that you need to think about, because we deal with hundreds and thousands or thousands of applications over all of our programs. So we don't necessarily have time to check that and to contact you. So that's why it's really important that you familiarize yourself with the needs of the program and the entry requirements. And you can ask us and we will clarify for you. So please just make sure that you are checking that. And if you're not sure, admissions@iadt.ie is our email address, okay?
Thanks, Robin. So we just want to say thank you to our panel and our student ambassadors for attending this session and providing their support today. And thank you to all of you for attending this session. I have shared in the chat some email addresses that you may find useful to contact us at a later point. We wish you all the best of luck with your applications and we hope to see you again very soon.
Thanks, guys.
Take care.
Thanks.